function called onPhotoLoaded will get triggered. So we go to onPhotoLoaded, and it's just adding that image to the stage. Nothing fancy here. Now the thing we want to do is listen for when it gets clicked on. So here on the top we have this line saying add event insert, mouse event click, onPhotoClick. So when that photo gets clicked, this photoClick function will get called, which then calls dispatch event. And does anyone know where that dispatch event comes from? Because you don't see it here anywhere in the code. Well, it's actually because it's extending a display object. So a display object in turn extends that event dispatcher class. And that is part of the problem here, and that AS3 Signals can solve for you. All classes that need to dispatch something traditionally need to extend a display object or event dispatcher. And AS3 Signals allow you to go around that, and I'll show you that in a minute. So, it does dispatch event and then new photo event. Now that's an interesting one. Why would we create a new photo event? Well, what you typically do in larger applications, not a simple demo like this, is you pass extra information into that event. And that extra information is then captured by the listener and it uses that. So you create a custom event. So that's a little bit of work you have to do. And a custom event is just a class that extends event. So event again is flash.event.event. So what do you have to do if you want to pass extra information to a custom event? Well, you create a public property. This public property can then be used on that event that gets passed. So in this case, I create a property called file that will store the path to the image. And what you then do is, normally an event takes three arguments, but you put one extra here. So after the type, I put an extra argument to constructor, and this passes in the string value of the image. And that I use to store it in that public property. So this is a little bit of work you have to do to create custom events, and that's work you have to repeat a lot of times when you create bigger projects. So the solution here is AS3 Signals, as I'll show you in a minute. So I showed you the first solution. So that first solution is looking up the photo.file, and the second solution is using that photo event, custom event you created. And in that case, rather than using photo.file, we refer to the event, and you'll see that the code hints now show you that there's a file property added. And that's that public property we added in the custom event. Can everyone follow so far? Cool. Now, that's all good, but now we want it a little bit easier. So I'll just switch back to my class here, and my slides, and I'll see what I have to say here. So I did the demo. Now we're going to talk about what's wrong with this. Does anyone have an idea what's wrong? What could be improved? Yeah, that's a big problem. You have to repeat all that code, create custom events, write a lot of things, and actually you could do without it. So it also requires inheritance. I briefly touched about it. So if you create a class, it has to extend either a sprite or a movie clip or actually event dispatcher to be able to send events. And that shouldn't happen actually. You can create classes without any inheritance, which is good, and just use composition to have signals dispatched. So you also need to subclass events if you want to pass arguments to an event. So you need to create a new class that extends event, add new public properties or getter and setter functions, and then set those and retrieve them again in the listener. So that's a lot of work. And also events are string references. Actually, wouldn't it be better if we had like an object that gets passed, so we directly have access to all the properties rather than having to look it up into an argument? So that's also what AS3 Signals does. And it also misses some basic functionality, and you've probably seen this if you want to remove all the listeners from an object. That's not provided by the ActionScript API. There's a few more I'll show you in a minute. So some basic functionality you would want to use is not there, and you would have to create it yourself if you use the standard ActionScript events. So what does Signals do to improve this? It It uses composition over inheritance, so you don't have to extend the sprite or event dispatcher. You don't have to subclass event anymore. You'll see that. It's really good. You can pass any amount of arguments to your signal. You don't have to limit it in any way. It doesn't have to be an array. It can be any type. And listeners subscribe to an object rather than a string reference of an event. And also you can hook it up to native events. So if you already have some code like with mouse events or with timer events, you can just use that and hook it up to a signal so you can use those events. So there are various you want to do that. So that's always a good case because it speeds up compilation and runtime performance. And the path for that is in old.os/signals.signal. Now, old.os/ refers to opensourceflash.org, which is a site that gathers all open source Flash projects. So Robert Banner put it in that package because it's an open source project, everyone can contribute, and it's of course free to use. So, the first demo, and I think I'm going to live dangerously and not use my prepared demo by coding myself because it's so very easy to do. So, close this, and I'll create a new ActionScript project, and I'll call it Hello Signal. I'll just add it to my working set here. And what I need to do is just copy in the signals code. So signals, I'll show you the URL later where you can find it. It's just a little bit of classes that you copy into your project or you link to. You can then use it. So in this case, we have an hello signal, and as developers, you probably know that you always have to begin with a hello world example, otherwise you get some problems. So what I'm going to do here is create a hello world. So I have this empty class, and what I want to do is have it instantiate a class that dispatches a signal. So what will I do? I'll say var Peter is a signal. Is a person,